So this is a walk in the woods job from Leverage Redemption. After this, I will finally have that video that I did back in December for this, because I'm rewatching and taking notes on these episodes. So we'll dig into that one. So you would know better than I would, but I guess a walk in the woods is a military term, I guess. Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the name of the thing. But I assumed it is. We start this episode giving Elliot. We really haven't dug, like, we understand that Elliot has served, but we really never dig into Elliot's military background. So it's interesting to go ahead and see how much that really means to him. We met that one guy who was from Firefly. He was a Baldwin. What the hell was his name? But he was a Baldwin who he was friends with, and you could see that Elliot cares about those guys. But this was special because I feel like, you know, he really was devastated when he lost Paul within the first, 3 minutes of the episode. So his voice cracking, asking the team for help, was kind of awesome to go ahead and like I said, I feel like this season we're giving Elliot layers that I really appreciate. So I enjoy that. I like that. One of the better people in the entire episode is Harry, because Harry is excellent for supporting Elliot. He's very empathetic. He's ridiculous when it comes to the fighting with the guys in the woods, and then his little play as Elliot is, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's great. I don't know, like I said, Harry really is, Noah Wyle really stepping into his game in this specific season, now that he's gaining his footing here. As you know, this is an episode about stolen valor, which I didn't really know that there was the name for it, but I thought that was pretty cool that we call it something. This dude kept telling the same stupid story over and over and over again, and before Paul even said it, I was like, I bet you this story is bullshit, because of the amount of times he keeps talking about it and wants everybody to pat him on the head. Like, even the time when he's, like, at the place, and he's like, we were on the bridge, and, like, nobody's listening. Because, dude, like, how many times can you keep talking? I never really talk about it, and yet you talk about it all the time. We hate that guy, and I hate his face, and I hated him from the beginning. You could just tell he was a douche. When they finally talk about Orpheus Grove, and, you know, Parker gets so excited to, like, mention it, and, you know, she has that first thing, like, it was a plantation from Confederate General blah blah blah, and Brianna's like, hate it already. Like, I must have rewound that part 100 times, because same, like, Brianna's entire, like, I'm in, let's take them down kind of thing. Yeah, she's all of us, so I love that. When they finally show up to Orpheus Grove, and you see just, like, the old rich guys. At first I thought it was just me old white guys, but I was, like, I noticed it this time around that there were people of color in there too, but, like, still old rich guys. In white sheets nonetheless. Like, let's go ahead and put them all in white sheets to really, like, swerve into the KKK kind of vibe. You know what I mean? As we do with it. The moment they started doing the moose thing, I don't know if Tony ever did this with you, but when we were working with Tony back in the day, you know, he'd randomly break into the, I'm a moose. Like, he'd do it in his thing, and it reminded me of that, made me laugh. But watching Sophie be like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, for her to say that, considering that Sophie's been doing weird things for years, says something. But, like, it was definitely hysterical. The other person who I think was the star of this episode is Parker. You could see the joy that Parker had in this entire episode. Like, she just, it was like her, like, one of her favorite things, I feel like. Because at first she had the whole, let's jump off and land on a moving target. Then she had the let's go steal things. Parker has a body on her still, like, girlfriend. Like, they did a good job, I feel like. Remember how I complained at one point in time about how Parker had, like, they did not do Parker justice in her appearance in the first season. They made up for it in this season, because they're totally like, let's show off how pretty Parker really is. And then she shows up in that belly dancing outfit, and you're like, damn, Parker, still keeping it tight. Like, yeah, no, she was great in this. Like, you could tell she had a lot of fun with this one. Paul is still alive! Yay! Not really hugely surprising. I mean, like, I had a feeling something like that was going on, because it just seemed like this person is too important for us to just have, like, immediately, like, killed him off. And, like, as upset as Elliot is, like, it wasn't like the rage I imagined it would be. One thing that I started getting bothered by is thinking, like, okay, you know, they had that entire movement about the Mississippi gopher frog. How many initiatives don't get off the ground because of a lack of knowledge when it comes to that kind of thing? So it's more like with the advent of internet, that's great, but, like, you know, how many people just don't care anymore? And it was totally like, oh, that's... I can't think about that too much because then it'll bother me. Anyway, this episode is pretty fight scene heavy, which I like. We feel like we don't really... I feel like they give us morsels of Elliot fighting, and, like, sometimes it's an excellent fight scene. Like, I think back to even the first time we watched him fight with people with, you know, when you first meet him and Hardison's holding up the bag, and by the time the bag falls on the floor, Elliot has beat up, like, 12 guys. And, or the time when, like, he meets Bly, and he's like, here's, I'm gonna beat up your 4 friends. You know, like, we don't really get a lot of that lately, and I kind of like watching the choreography of the fight scenes. So this was fun. Harry dressing in the ghillie suit and then showing up as Elliot is hysterical. First is, like, you know, he's seriously re-quoting Elliot, and then after that he's quoting Rocky. Like, that's a choice. Like, that's the next person you picked with the serious voice like that. And then, you know, Elliot being like, what was his voice? And Harry's like that was great. Watching Sophie pivot real quick when, like, she gets found out early on, it happens. You know what I mean? Like, I always enjoy watching her pivot because she's really good at it. Another thing I noticed this show does a lot is, like, I'm not mad at it. Obviously, they do it rightfully so. Is that the moment that there could be a live gun in play, they do things to take it out, so that, you know, nobody really gets hurt in it. I wonder every now and again if there will be a live gun in play. If they will, you know, one of the team members is going to get shot, which makes me nervous. And I'm like, please don't shoot anybody I love. So there's that. So when the general found out, that was another thing that really messed me up a little bit. So they did it again. Now that I'm thinking about it, here they're gonna do it again in this later on, because I know that I just did a video about a recent episode and I said the same thing. I really thought the general was going to be like a nice guy. Now, granted, he's the grandson of a plantation owner and he deals with this cabal of nastiness. But I thought he seemed like a nice guy when Sophie was originally upset, and now he's like, nope, I'm gonna help you clean this up. Unfortunately, y'all are gonna die here. Like, okay, so I guess that's the thing. So that's fine. So we have to take him down too, but he seemed nice up until that point. When they finally did, what the hell is this guy's name? I don't even like him enough to remember. Trusk? Whatever. They pretty much were like, hey, let's see you hold this bridge. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh, that you did that on purpose, just to go ahead and call out how ridiculous he is. One of the things that, like, messed me up, and I feel like I went to go back and look at it, but then I just never really, like, I kept getting attention span. At the very end, when a cop is taking away Trusk, or whatever his name is, yeah, the cop is smiling big as hell, and I was like, did we do that on purpose? Is the cop a friend? Like, did we give him a scene and he just laughed and stuff like that? Like, what are we doing here? So if you end up, you know, of the mind to look up why that guy's having such a good time, then by all means, please do so. And then finally, the whole point I feel like behind this was to set up Elliot going and talking to his family, his dad, for that matter. Because it was like, you know, Elliot owed his friend this, and it's been going on too long and stuff like that. So, you know, when I originally watched this, was like, I hope this is not a throwaway. And thankfully it was not, because the very next episode after this, which I did my video on, is the fractured job, which is Elliot goes home. So, anyway, I thought this was okay. It was just a nice little Elliot backstory. It was a thumb in the eye of white guys, and the peeing everywhere is the problem. Like, it really feels like Dean Devlin is a very big feminist, because he's totally like, hey, it's a very... the main problem with everything is everybody's pissing all over the place, and that's the reason the frogs can't grow and stuff like that. So I thought that part was funny with the pissing everywhere, but I feel like that's the main thing I remember out of the whole episode, even though I've watched all of these episodes many times. If I have to, like, you know, dispel it down to a few sentences, the pissing is going to be part of the story. So it just seemed funny. Anyway, let me know what you think. All right, bye.